Firstly, we will start with processing the results of the first measurement cycle, cycle 0. The first thing that we need to do is to calculate what is the height of the reference benchmark according to the three different leveling lines to the three different control benchmarks. So we need to calculate the height of the initial benchmark, the first height from the height that is given in the assignment of the first control point plus the measured elevation difference. This is Here are the heights of the control points and here are the measured differences. And we are going to have the first value. After that, absolutely the same, but using the height of the second control benchmark and the measured elevation to this benchmark, and the same for the third one. So here it is very important, you must be very careful that this is 3 times calculating the height of the one point. So these three values must be approximately equal with some centimeters or millimeters difference. Another thing that you must be very careful is the accuracy. Here the measured differences are with 4 points after the decimal point. So all of your calculations must be with 4 numbers after the decimal point. This is very, very important. And here again the given values for the height of our control point, again they are with 4 points after the decimal point, because this is a precise measurements. These are precise measurements. So after that, according to these three different values for our initial benchmark, we are going to calculate the average one. But all of these measurements, the three type of measurements, they are with different accuracy. And you know that when we talk about leveling line, the accuracy depends on the length of our leveling line. Here in the assignment, we have the three lengths of our leveling lines, these values. And from them, we are going to calculate the weights. The weights are parameters that gives us information about the accuracy of the measurement. So you can see here how to calculate the accuracy, but be very careful with the numbers after the decimal point if you use for the length units in kilometers, or if you use in meters. So we have three leveling line, so we have three weights, and in this equation you need to replace the values of the weights and the approximately equal values for the initial benchmark, and this is going to be the final value for our reference benchmark in the first cycle, in the zero cycle. Again, you must be very careful that this value is with 4 points after the decimal point, and this value must be a number that is somewhere between these three numbers here. Okay, so check, here are a lot of calculations, check this verification. Then the next step is to continue with the first target benchmark. This is point 1. It's very easy. The height in zero cycle for the target benchmark 1 is going to be the height of the initial, the first, the reference benchmark plus the measured elevation in the zero cycle. This value is the difference, elevation difference here. After that, we have a loop leveling line which is between points 1, 2, 3, 4, and again point 1. So the calculations are absolutely the same as we have made them in the first semester when we had loop leveling line. Here are the horizontal distances, and here you need to write the elevation difference depending on their sign plus or minus. These are the elevation differences. And again, the sum with the differences with plus sign, the sum of them with negative sign, and the misclosure is going to be this value, the sum of the plus sign minus this value, the sum of the all differences with minus sign, and you will have a value about 1 or 2 millimeters or 0.1, 0.2 millimeters. So the correction is going to be only this value, and after that, using the first height, this number plus all of the elevation differences, again here you need to have absolutely the same value. And with this we are ready with the first measurement cycle, the 0, 1. After that, we are going to proceed with the next measurement cycle. Here we have absolutely the same thing. Again, we need to calculate the height of the reference benchmark, but here we are using the values from the second measurement cycle, and maybe these measurements have been taken 5 years after the first, the 0 cycle. And absolutely the same. We have again the heights of the control benchmarks, they are absolutely the same, but the elevation differences from the second cycle. So here we are going to have different values. And here is one of the very important moments in our calculation. This is the sustainability verification of our reference point. So here we need to see if our reference point has moved or has changed its location, or this point is a stable point for all of these 5 years between the two measurement cycle. So we are going to calculate the difference between the value of the reference point of our two cycles, and we have two cases. The first one, if this difference is smaller or equal to to half of the minimum deformation that we need to have in our calculations, or if it is bigger. You know that in our task this value delta H minimum was 2 millimeters. So each of you are going to have different values, but if you have this one, the benchmark is sustainable. So you are going to continue with calculating the height of the first target point using the value for the reference point for the from 0 cycle. This is very important, from 0 cycle, because we have made a conclusion that the reference point is sustainable. But if the difference between the two cycles is bigger than half of the delta H minimum, this means that the benchmark is not sustainable, and in that case, here we need to use the height of the reference benchmark from the current cycle. In our case, this is cycle 1. So this is very important moment. And again, you will continue with absolutely the same loop leveling line, but here the elevation differences and horizontal differences are from measurement cycle 1. The last thing is to calculate the vertical deformations. Here we have all types of benchmark, the target one, the reference benchmark, and the control benchmarks. They are numbers. Their values from the initial cycle 0, and their measurements from their heights from the second cycle 1. Here you have absolutely the same values because these are our control benchmarks. They are with given heights, so we don't have here deformations. Here you have the two values of the reference point, and here you have the different values from the for the target points. The difference between these values are going will give us the vertical deformations. Be careful that here in this column the deformations they are in millimeters, and it is very important the sign. Is it with plus sign or is it with negative sign? So this is the assignment for the seminar 16. Be careful with the calculations, be careful with the accuracy, the numbers after the decimal point must be 4 everywhere, and be careful at this point.